In this video, you're going to learn symbol.iterator. So let's start with a simple example to understand what this means. So I'm going to create an array, basket. I'm going to place a few items in this array. So you know that you can loop over the array using a for-of loop like this. So let's log the values. So this is a simple for-of loop. Now, there is one way of looping over the array using what we call a symbol.iterator. So first, let's understand what this is. So if you log it, you get a symbol, and the description is symbol.iterator. Its type is obviously a symbol. Now, let's log the array itself and have a quick look inside. So you can see the elements of the array, and you can see here the array prototype, all the methods inside. So all these are array methods, and right at the end, you'll find the symbol.iterator there. So it's one of the methods that you can use with the array. And you can use it like this. So symbol or basket, then between brackets, you use symbol.iterator. So we're not using the dot notation, so we're using the brackets notation here. So this is that function. Now, let's see what you get if you log it. So it's a function. Now, if you call it, you get an array iterator. And if you remember, we created array iterators before using the entries method. Remember? So what's the difference between entries and symbol.iterator? So let's create an iterator, it, using this one. And let's log the output of the next method and see what we get. So we're getting a value and done object. So the value is apple and done is false. So if you carry on, and the fourth one will give us done is true. So symbol.iterator can help us get an iterator out of an array, just like we did with entries. Now with entries, it was slightly different. So we had to use basket.entries, and the output of the next method was different. So the value was an array. But you could use, instead of entries, you could use the keys, and then we return the keys in the value. You can also use values, and you will get only the values. So basically, this is similar to that. So if you use the values method, it will give you an iterator, just like you get the same iterator with symbol.iterator. So you're getting the same results. Okay. So now, if you want to perform a for-of loop or loop over the array using this iterator, you can. So here is a quick challenge for you. So instead of using a for of loop and printing the values inside the array basket, let's write some code using the symbol.iterator and perform the same loop and log the values in the console. So I suggest you pause the video here and come back once you're done. Alright, so hopefully you managed to find the solution. So the idea here is to use a while loop. The loop is going to continue as far as you get in each of these iterations done still equal to false. So once done is true, then you break the loop. So let's write our while loop. So the condition here is going to be done is false. So to access done, we will need to call the next method of the iterator. So let's create a variable iteration and set it to it.next. And we are checking iteration.done. And we're checking the opposite of that because you want to make sure that the loop carries on if that's false. So every time we're going to write the value, which is iteration.value, and then set iteration again to the output of the next method. So let's try this. So nothing is happening, and the reason why is because we have already called next multiple times there, and there are no elements left in the iterator, so we need to comment those lines of code. So now if you try again, it should work. So you get the same result as if you use the for of loop. Alright, now let's see how you can use symbol.iterator with objects. So the symbol.iterator symbol specifies the default iterator for an object. So let's create an object and then create a custom iterator for that object. So let's call it obj, and let's have a method inside the object. So this is going to be our custom iterator. So we're going to use the symbol.iterator. And we're going to set it to a function which returns an iterator. So as you would expect, we're going to use a generator function. So the keyword is function star, right? And let's say that this function will just yield 1, and then 2, and then 3. And to make things easy, we're just going to use a loop. So for let I equal to 1, I less than 3, and increment I. And every time we're just yielding I. So if you remember, if you yield something, that means that you pause the code right there. So this value is going to show in the objects that you output when you call the next method. All right. So now let's create an iterator and use our default custom iterator, symbol.iterator, like this. And we're going to need to call the function, and then let's call next multiple times and see what we get. Right, so you got an issue somewhere, line 36. So here we go. So the first value is 1, then the second one is 2, and then we stop right there and we get done set to true or equal to true. So this is another use of the symbol.iterator symbol. Now there is a simpler syntax for this. So if you want to use the ES6 syntax, you can just place a star just before symbol.iterator and just remove all this. And this will still work. Okay. Now let's try something really interesting. So we're going to use a for of loop and loop over the object. All right. So for const x of object log x. So let's find out what we're going to get. And you get 1 and 2. Also, if you try the objects here and use the spread operator inside an array like this, then you get an array with 1 and 2 inside. So this is what we mean when we say that we are defining a custom iterator of our object. All right. So now, once you define this custom iterator, you can treat the objects as an iterable. All right. And you can use either a for of loop or use the spread operator like you would use with any other iterable values like arrays.